You guys are going to love this one, though. We are welcoming today Candice Brackeen. She is the general partner at Lightship Capital, where she funds high-growth, minority-led companies operating in underserved ecosystems throughout the Midwest. Launched in 2020, and let's think about that. 2020, launching a business like this. Lightship Capital is raising $50 million in a fund for investment into underrepresented founders operating in the CPG, e-commerce, sustainability, artificial intelligence, and healthcare spaces. So we're touching a lot of the businesses that I know you guys are a part of right now. Candice is also the founder and CEO at Lightship Foundation, the inclusion-focused entrepreneur enrichment program guiding minority founders with instruction in all kinds of stuff, product development, brand building, leveraging artificial intelligence for business and for fundraising. Candice expands upon her work driving representation and innovation with her role in I can't believe I'm about to say this. In Lunar Surface Innovation Consortium for NASA. I mean, seriously. I can't even, I'm such a space geek, I'm so excited about this. Where she leads diversity of thought as new cultures and new economies are developed. She sits on the advisory committee and selection committees for technology for The Ohio State University, for Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center, ensuring that technology as it is commercialized from these entities, that diversity is at the forefront of everything that they do. I have spoken enough about Candice. Let's let her talk about herself. Candice, come on up here. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Have a seat. And special thank you to Peter and Monica for some quick readjusting up here. Candice, that bio is exceptionally long and needed to be. Let's talk about this, because where you are now is not where you started. So let's talk about how this entrepreneurial spirit got going with you.
Oh my goodness gracious. So thanks so much for having me. I'm learning how to accept a thank you when people say all of those things that I've done throughout my life. So I am originally from Toledo, Ohio. I come from a pretty humble upbringing, his, hers, ours. So I have 6 brothers and me. And so, yeah, it's a lot of boys.
I was going to say, that teaches you a lot from a very young age.
It teaches you a lot, yeah. So I don't take any mess, as they say. So, you know, honestly, I was that kid that, just like one of my sons, like sold candy at school and always had a lemonade stand. But when it was time to go away to college, I was a first-generation college student, I decided to kind of move away from home. I started at BG and then moved on to go to the University of Cincinnati, where I found out I didn't want to be a teacher. I didn't necessarily, at that point, like other people's kids.
I think we've all been there.
Yeah. And fell into an Econ 101 class. Loved the class, watched some of my friends struggle. Oh my gosh, I see my friends in the audience. It's good to see you all here today. I took Econ 102, and then one of my professors, Debashis Powell, came up to me and he's like, hey, you're doing really well in this class. If you want to do more, I've got this scholarship you should apply for. And 2 families, the Calton-Ubel family and another family, ended up paying for the rest of my college education. And it was from that program that I learned about how business works. Economics touches a lot of things. And what I learned was what levers moved certain things. And we did lots of different projects through our entire kind of like college career, where we would go into a small, medium, or kind of like hypothesize around a large business and decide what was working, what wasn't, and fix those challenges. And so I did that over and over and over. And then when I graduated, I realized that I couldn't sit still in someone else's office. And so I went in with some folks that had graduated from UC and started consulting. And so we went into small to medium-sized businesses, helped them fix their challenges, and I did that for 12 or 13 years. And so that's how it really started, was working on other people's businesses.
And that led you to your first business, which was Hello Parent.
Hello Parent.
Okay, so tell us about Hello Parent and how you got there.
Yeah, so my oldest son, Wes, who's in the audience today, had gotten to kindergarten. He's the kid with the really amazing afro. He is mad at me right now. So when he was in kindergarten, he is now a sophomore in high school, he was invited out on a play date. It took us a long time to schedule. Like, we went back and forth over email, text message, voicemail, and we finally got it scheduled after a couple of weeks. These kids were relentless in being like, hey, like, when's that play date? When I went to pick him up from his friend's house, knock on the door, mom wasn't there. There was a caregiver, so there was a nanny there at the house. Okay, cool. Wish mom would have told me, but she didn't. I say to the nanny, hey, where's Wes? She goes, oh, he's somewhere around here. And this house was big. Like, I grew up in a 750 square foot home. This was 10,000 square feet. I look around for my son. He's sitting on a bed playing Call of Duty online. Online, you guys. So there's people from all over the world using flowery language. His friend sitting next to him in his little tiny voice shouting, that's BS, that's BS. But not BS, like he was using the whole word. We leave, we've never been back, but it was after that kind of situation that I realized that I should have shared more information. So I got with another friend at school and I said, hey, maybe we should like build an app for helping parents set expectations. So we raised a few, I know it sounds easy, it was not easy. We raised a few $100,000, got into a local accelerator, built the company to a really great point. We were entrepreneurs in residence at 8451, and I learned a ton from the process. And then we ran out of money, and it was around that same time that a survey or a study came out that said that less than 1% of all venture capital goes to a Black-led company, and less than 0.2% came from companies with women who looked like me. And I was like, well, that's not cool. I was one of 88 Black women who had ever raised any venture capital. And I was like, that's just like not a thing. And so it was from that I decided to fix the challenge here in Cincinnati.
It's important to note, you were a mother in your late 30s.
Yes.
Before you did any of this entrepreneurial venture, correct?
No, if I'm going to be completely honest, like, I wanted to go to college, have my career, get married, have children, potentially work from home a little bit. It wasn't until it was my goal. When my kids got to kindergarten, I wanted to go to work. And that was my goal, and that was okay with me, and I nailed it. Yeah.
That's amazing. So let's go from Hello Parent. What was the next step there? Once you learned about this disparity?
Once I learned about this disparity, around the same time, this young lady moves to town. Her name is Natasha. She had a small data company, survey data company. And she had two other folks on her founding team, two African-American gentlemen. And I saw them come to town. I saw the other woman of color that wanted to come into the tech industry, and I didn't want her to leave. So I started a little meetup group. I wanted to welcome her to town. So we went to Igby's downtown, and there were 11 of us. I said, okay, well, what do I know how to do well? Cheese and wine. So I ordered a whole bunch of cheese and wine at Igby's, invited all of these folks, and we created what was called the Black Founders Network. The 11 of us met in June of 2015, and then July of 2015, one of my friends brought in Intel Capital, who he was raising money from. So that month, there were 15 people who came downtown to 8451, and we all sat there and listened to this amazing venture capitalist. Third month, we go out to 16-bit. Fourth month, can't remember. The sixth month, a new guy joined, Dahani Jones, who used to play for the Bengals. He was like, hey, I think you should host this at my house because this thing's getting bigger than you think it is, this meetup group. I was like, okay. That month, of course, there's 75 people at his house. And we hatched a plan. We hatched a plan with our friends at Mortar. There were folks from the city. And we decided to launch an accelerator at the time that was called Hillman, to support women and minority-led tech companies, and it's grown ever since.
So you've talked about kind of this like groundswell, like you guys kind of started it offline, if you will. Mm-hmm. How has tech, as we talk about owning your digital presence, in the world of tech, how has that digital component played a part in how you have improved and increased your businesses?
Well, I mean, honestly, like, it was pretty low tech when we started. This was a Google Calendar invite that I would just like invite everyone to, and if you showed up, you showed up, and if you didn't, you didn't. There's usually never a month less than 8 people, but some of the months we had 100 people. Since then, we've just kind of like built the components over time, and it's lots of different layerings of things. Yeah.
So how have you seen the difference in your business ventures and maybe other peers' business ventures improved with digital either awareness or just intentionality?
Yeah, it was digital awareness, but it was also just building upon a really great network, right? And so, I mean, if I'll give a small example. So a gentleman that used to work in this building, Rodney Williams from Listener, he used to work at Pampers. He was the brand manager there. He was in that first group. He and I stayed connected. We shared resources around legal, marketing, just how to raise money. And we held meetups. We also, as a group, traveled together, and we were really intentional about not letting each other go. If somebody messed up, that's my family, right? And that's how we all treat our network. Since then, he's built Listener, transitioned and having a new CEO, but now he has a second company called Solar Funds. That was the first company I ever invested in. Now that company is, they just announced a new funding round. Serena Ventures from Serena Williams, MasterCard, and many others have invested in that company. And so it started as a pretty low digital footprint, but for us, we've just continued to stay in touch and build a network. And the network is the meetups that we host every month. We host them here in Cincinnati, but we host meetups. By the end of this year, we'll be in 16 cities, right? And so that's happening in a very low-tech way that becomes a very high-growth, venture-backable way. Yeah.
So it's interesting because you've mentioned several either mentors or people that you've leaned on, maybe people who've leaned on you. And that is a very low-tech way to kind of improve or expand your footprint. How has that been for you? Because you describe yourself as an introvert, which is funny because it doesn't seem like that, but I understand that completely. An extroverted introvert or an introverted extrovert, however it works. So how has that been for you to have to reach out to those people personally, for people who might struggle with that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go home and take a nap after this because this is all the energy I have. Okay, so I'm really great one-to-one. But once the line forms, it just takes me a little bit of time to readjust my mind. So mentors for me have allowed me to get to somewhere I could have never imagined. So when I say I came from a humble upbringing, housing projects, that's where I started. And then subsidized housing, and then just a very small house with a kerosene heater. This was humble. And so I've had to learn to navigate new rooms my entire life, right? I think for me, I treat everything as a long-term relationship and not just somebody who's a stepping stone. So for me, I treat every new relationship as a thing that could become something incredible. I'll give a small example of that. So there's a gentleman named Mike Venerable. He runs a venture capital firm here in town called Cincy Tech. I pitched him Hello Parent years ago. And I didn't really know how venture capital worked. I didn't even know venture capital existed, you guys. And I went to him to pitch this idea for Hello Parent. He listened. He gave me an hour of his time. It seemed like he was really excited about the idea. I was definitely getting $500,000 out of this guy. And at the end, he was like, you know what? Come back when you have a better idea, but this isn't it for you. And man, that was really hard to take. And that no at first stung really bad. But I went back and I pitched him something different, and he was like, this is a little better, come back again. Now, his mentality is he's like a pet owner. You got a stick, you throw it, they go get it, they come back, he just throws it really far. But he's pretty incredible that way. But I went back to him again, and he helped me refine. And I went back again, and he helped me refine. I went back with Hillman, he helped Dahani and Abo and I refine the program. I went to him with the fund, and man, he spent a year and a half with me helping me to refine. So you just never know who's going to be someone who's in your life long term. And I can see several women in the audience today that have been in my life, never out of my life, but I just didn't see them at the moment. Yeah.
You are the founder of Black Tech Week. So tell me, like, for those folks who may not know exactly what that is, first of all, explain what it is, and also how did it come about?
Yes, so I acquired Black Tech Week, so I bought Black Tech Week. So Black Tech Week started in Miami 9 years ago. Felicia Hatcher and Derek Pearson, the founders down there, were hosting boot camps for children to learn how to code. And they would have speakers come and mentors come and talk to the kids in Miami-Dade County and Overtown, which is a predominantly Black area of Miami proper. And the mentors would come in and none of the mentors looked like the kids. And so they started bringing in mentors that looked like the kids. And they were like, oh, there are so many of these people. What if we just held like a one-day workshop where we can share these people with adults? And the first workshop had like 100 people come and attend. Everybody was so super excited. And then they did it again, and then there were a few hundred people. And the second year, I ended up going, the second full year of the conference, I ended up going with the Black Founders Network. And I saw people on stage that I didn't see anywhere else. I didn't see stages full of Black founders pitching AI companies, robotics companies, folks that were working on sustainability. I didn't see that anywhere else. I didn't see it at South by, I didn't see it at CES, I didn't see it at Milken. I didn't see it anywhere. And I thought, wow, this is my jam. So I've not missed a year yet. When the founder, Felicia, was hired by Pharrell Williams to lead Black Ambition Prize, I saw an opportunity and I called her. And I was like, hey, what's going to happen with Black Tech Week? And she was like, oh, we're just going to wind it down. And I said, but we all need on-ramps constantly. There's always someone new getting into tech. And our majority peers also need to see what it looks like. And so for us, last year's conference was 75% Black, 25% other. That's what we want to continue to do. And so when the opportunity came up, I went out to my funders, and I came to my team and I said, I think this is a huge opportunity. Went and talked to the mayor and the governor and lieutenant governor, and we all pulled it together to fund the acquisition of Black Tech Week and bring it here to Cincinnati.
And that's the important part. It's here. It's here in Cincinnati. It's remarkable. Let's talk a little. I kind of asked the executive panel what their favorite social media was, and we were over there giggling a little bit on some of it. So what, do you have a favorite social media, personal, professional, or otherwise?
I like Instagram. I like watching people's families grow. I enjoy it for the sports. I'm a huge Bengals fan. So I would say, like, personally, Instagram. Mm-hmm. I steer clear of TikTok. I wish my...
Why do you steer? I'm interested why someone involved in tech, would you steer clear of TikTok because of the privacy issues, or?
Yeah, privacy, but there is no bottom.
Yeah.
There is no bottom, and it is time that you cannot get back.
And somehow you're on it for 30 minutes and you thought you were going to be there for 2, right?
Yeah, it's nonstop. And it's very dancey. It's very dancey.
Yeah.
I will say there are some great folks on there. I've learned a lot about, ADHD TikTok is... I'm
on ADHD TikTok.
Girl, ADHD TikTok is a thing. They have now that there's a few people who are on Instagram and, they've got reels, I like that. But ADHD TikTok is not good for my ADHD. It makes it more ADHD.
The reverse, exactly.
And then I go to, the prior panel said, Twitter is a lot of the news. Mm-hmm. For me, LinkedIn is just too much. it's too much. I think I have like 4 people who are trying to connect with me right now. I just am not going to get to it. I'm just not going to get to it. But those are the ones I'm on.
So thoughts about some of the other ones? So like, what about Facebook?
That's my family.
Okay. Nothing professional, just a personal.
There's a few folks professionally, but probably like early professional career, like my friends' friends.
Yeah.
But no one that is closed. It is closed. Baby pictures are there.
What about like Discord, like mentioned before, or Reddit, anything like that?
Yeah, I know, and I can't hear him from here, but I know that when the prior panel was like, Discord, Reddit, those are kind of new. No. Yes, he was up there going, no, Mom, those have been around. Those have been around for a long time. I am not on either of those, but my team is. Mm-hmm. My team spends a lot of time there. We have a Discord channel for our alum. And they hang out there. We tried Slack, that didn't work for us, but Discord for certain. And you can find out a lot of information on Reddit. If you want to know what's actually about to trend, Reddit is the place.
And it's interesting, college majors still call internet majors emerging media. It's emerged, like it's fully bloomed. Like we need to probably rename that a little bit. For those folks, either in the corporate space or entrepreneurs like yourself, how would you recommend they use social media or any other form of any other outlet to improve, expand their business?
I mean, I would say like 1-to-1 I think is the best. So going to as many events as possible, I think there's still a lot to be gained from that. 2, I would just say whatever is going to work best for your own mental health. I know for myself, when I ramp up too much on social, when I really focus on like the strategy behind a content calendar of me, I start to kind of like not sleep. Mm-hmm. So I just try to go with the flow of what's happening in my life. If you look at my social media, if you look at my Instagram, for example, it's work, my children, and things I'm doing out and about, but very likely football, right? There is preseason football. There is regular season football, there is playoffs, and then you guys, there's the combine that just happened, right? Then there's free agency, and then there's the draft, and then we're right back to preseason. So that's all year for me, and that's how I use social media. I try to be as authentic as possible, as candid as possible. Sometimes I've got curly hair, sometimes I have straight hair, sometimes I have no makeup, sometimes I do. I celebrate my children's wins. I let people know when I've lost somebody in my family. And so I'm just really open that way on my social Instagram. And it gets a little deeper on my Facebook, not so much on LinkedIn, and Twitter is where I have a tempered opinion.
They used to tell us on TV, it was like, you have an outward opinion and you have an inward opinion.
Yes.
And the inward opinion perhaps just needs to stay in the inner circle.
When you have 67 funders, you just you tend to not.
Well, let's talk about that, because you've got to make sure we all are in a position, whether entrepreneur, corporate, or somewhere in between, where you've got to make other people happy or make sure that you're not making other people mad at the very least. So how do you do that? 67 people, that's a lot of people to make sure everybody's, happy, smiling in the background.
It's a lot of listening. It's a lot of like lunches and understanding what the values are of each one of those individual stakeholders. The people who fund us range the gamut. I mean, I'm sitting in a building of an organization that funds us. The state of Ohio funds us, the city of Cincinnati, JP Morgan Chase, a bank that failed last week. Like, there's been a lot of people who have funded us. So it's a lot of listening. At its core, though, I'm a capitalist. And so for most people, if you show them the numbers, the return on investment, that's what is most important, whether it's for social impact or financial impact. And so that's how we treat it. We treat it that way. We are not red, we are not blue. Mm-hmm. We are moderate right in the center as an organization, but we are primarily focused on supporting Black, Indigenous, and people of color, those from the LGBTQ community, people with disabilities, and people who identify as women. That is the majority of Americans, and so as long as we can kind of like stick through that, we're pretty good.
Do you have any examples or any stories of maybe trouble spots or successes that you've had in sharing behind the scenes or anything like that in the world of social media?
I've definitely gotten calls about different posts.
And when somebody picks up the phone, that's,
Yeah.
it's easy to send off a text, but somebody picks up the phone, that's a tough one. When that phone.
It's really hard. We, like I said, we're in 13 different cities. A city called, and they wanted to talk about our approach because they'd heard from someone else that we had posted something and they saw it. And I'm going to talk around the edges here, but we were asked to take something down. And I said, but I'm speaking up for someone who is voiceless. And I know the truth behind this story. And the truth behind this story is political. And I made someone feel uncomfortable with who they were inside. It is hard to come to terms with your own bias. I have bias, you guys. I do. I absolutely do. And you do too. And you have to come to terms with that. And unfortunately, someone didn't. And they wanted all things changed. When we pick locations for boot camps, you would be surprised how many people say, you can't host it there because so-and-so is there. Well, what's your problem with so-and-so? I don't care. I only serve entrepreneurs. That is the work. I want to give them the best location possible. I want it to look as great and grand as their majority peers. We will not host it in a Marriott hotel ballroom, okay? I want to be at the private club like everyone else. And so we've gotten lots of crazy calls. So yes, that is actually the real example, which is folks trying to move and maneuver us around.
Switching gears a little bit, some of what we'll be discussing this afternoon is SEO, search engine optimization, and how to kind of, manage that. Do you take any steps in that regard? Because I'll say, Peter, when he looked you up, he was like, oh, her SEO is perfect. Look at all these gorgeous pictures and all these wonderful articles. So I don't know if you've purposely done this, but if it's accidental, congratulations. But are there steps that you take to make sure that when people Google you, what they find is exactly what you want?
Well, I'm always on message. The same message doesn't change. So that it started as accidental. But now we have a director of communication. She's been my ghostwriter for almost 6 years. She's in her 6th year right now. So a lot of things that are written start with me on an otter or voice notes and us working together on stories. Mm-hmm. We do have a new SEO team in the last year and a half that helps with that work. Again, like I say team, like you guys, there's 10 of us full-time, 25 contractors that work on Black Tech Week.
That's amazing. Though.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. That's a lot of folks. I know that it's not a team as we sit here in P&G, that sort of team.
Yeah, but dealing with 35 people every week is a lot of work. And we're bringing on 20 interns in the next 4 weeks, and I love the babies, but they are about to wear me out.
You're going to work out in the next couple of weeks. Do you have something that you look back on these years and go, that's the moment, or that's my favorite thing, or that's where things changed for me?
It's a collection of moments. But I would say one of the biggest ones was Professor Powell from the University of Cincinnati believing in me. Because I wasn't a great student in grade school or in high school, and I definitely had a high school teacher that told me I was never going to do anything.
Have you called that teacher back?
Yeah. Well, there's a long story behind that, but yes.
Time.
I would say that first professor believing in me. I would also say that my next door neighbor, she would be the other. As a kid growing up, State Senator Linda Fernie, she lived next door to me when I was in high school, and she took me to my first show, She helped me with my college application. She just went into kind of a care facility, and she really changed my life. So I would say those 2 moments were big for me, but it's all been the help of others. And so if you can be of help to anyone, just for a little bit of time, you have no idea where they can get to in life.
And it sounds like you've done that same thing. How many are there? I mean, you've got 20 interns coming on. I mean, that alone. But it sounds like you've taken that mentee aspect and turned it into a mentor aspect.
Absolutely. So when somebody asks, I do it for the most part. If I've got time, I only take a few people per year. But right now, I've got Lance at SUA. He is at the University of Cincinnati. He's a next-gen scholar. He also was a Couts-Ubel Fellow. He graduates this year. And so he and I touch base at least every other week. We've also now recruited my husband to help him as well. He's helping to build the University of Cincinnati's first venture fund through Bearcat Ventures. He was the homecoming king year before last, and I stick with him. So that's my current guy.
Can I ask how the NASA thing happened? I mean, that's crazy, right? I mean, it's one thing to make a name for yourself regionally, even nationally, but to step into that space that had to be difficult. Oh, I said it. It was a pun, and I didn't even mean it. But yeah, so explain how that worked and what the work that you do there.
You know, so this young lady, so I get an email that is definitely spam. Like, it was very wordy. It was, if you printed it out, it was probably 3 pages long about why I should join the Johns Hopkins Lunar Surface Innovation Consortium for NASA. I'm like, I have a degree in economics. What do they want? I see it, whatever, spam. And then I get an email from someone else, pretty much the same thing. Then I get a LinkedIn request from this guy, and he was like, hey, just so you know, that stuff is real. Like, do you have a minute do you have a moment to talk? You have a background in economics. We're building economies other places. And so I get on the phone with 8 people who all have these like amazing space backgrounds. It looks like there's a moon floating and a guy in a spacesuit. And they tell me about how they're building different economies and how they want to help with supplier diversity around the things that are going to go to space. Everything you do here, you're going to have to do there. You're going to need toilet paper, right? You're going to need feminine hygiene products. You're going to need it all. Everybody knows about how many like tampons they sent up with the folks to the space station, right? So they need to diversify. And so that's my work on the Lunar Surface Innovation Consortium. And it's a lot of us. It's folks from Boeing, it's folks from NASA, it's folks from different universities, all talking how we're building a more equitable economy as we go into space.
You know, a lot of what we're talking about today, of course, is about the digital space and optimizing, you know, how people find you. What you've talked a lot about today as well, in addition to that, though, is that interpersonal relationship, not just in conversation, but in doing and in creating that diversity and creating that inclusion. If you were to give these women and a few men some pointers as they leave, what can we do to further the work you're doing on our level?
If you see something, say something, right? When it gets hard, just go all in. And if you are in a position to hire people, make certain that you're looking beyond where the recruiters are looking. I would say that's first and foremost. If everyone in your department, if everyone who is a direct report looks just like you, then you're not doing a good job. There are amazing people everywhere. So intelligence is distributed equitably. Networks aren't. So there are intelligent people everywhere, in every corner, in every color, in every creed. So if your department, if your friends all look like you, just make certain that you do a little bit more, even if it's hard.
What is next for you, for Lightship Capital, for Black Tech Week? What can we expect?
Well, we got a lot of boot camps coming up around the country. Black Tech Week will be July 18th through the 20th, so during Cincinnati Music Festival week. So we'll roll right into
Snoop Dogg and Al Green.
Snoop Dogg, Al Green, Manny Fresh, all of them are going to be here in town. We're really excited about that. We're getting on the Acela from May 1st to the 5th on the startup train, going from Providence down to DC, highlighting 5 new ecosystems. And beyond that, we're just trying to manage the growth. Yeah, just continuing to do the work.
We can't wait to see.
Thank you so much, Catherine.
Candice, thank you. Rachel says we have time for questions. Candice's favorite. All right, anybody have a question for Candice? Rachel's got a mic over here, so if you have a question, raise your hand. Oh, and Monica has one too. Any questions right down here?
I love that Rachel's running the microphone. I love her so much.
It's like a game show. It's lovely.
First of all, thank you. You are amazing.
Thank you.
The question I have for you is, what is something you used to believe about yourself that you had to shift and change to be who you are now?
That's a great question.
I have talked to Rachel about this before. So I don't always believe in myself. I sat on a stage at South by Southwest last weekend, and I looked to my left and I looked to my right, and for a moment I couldn't figure out why I was there. Between 2 amazing people, but there were 2 amazing people sitting next to another amazing person. So it's a constant battle with myself, is realizing that I'm good enough to be here. I'm great enough to be here. It is sometimes hard when people give me all of these accolades, but I feel like I'm just doing my job. I think I'm doing, in many ways, God's work. And so this is what I was meant to do, so why do I need any congratulations? So I've had to shift that a bit to actually accept it and be thankful for it, because I have way more than I need and way more than I would have ever wanted. So for me, it's just transitioning and realizing that I'm good enough. And just to put that in kind of regular terms, it's when women look at a job description, they sometimes look at it and say, oh, well, I've got about 70% of these things that I'm good at. This other 30, I don't know how I can do any of these. I don't have any experience in this space. A man looks at a job description and he goes, got this, no big deal. Men don't always look at it that way. They figure, oh, I'll figure it out on the fly. We actually had all of it to begin with and more, because we've always been the multitaskers. We've always been the ones who had to do more with less. That's why women clip coupons for a long time, right? I clip them digitally. I love them. But we all have it. We just have to realize that it's always been in us. And we can all stretch and reach for more. But for me, it's just been difficult to accept it all. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Oh.
There's one down here in the red jacket.
I have 3 on this side.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Lord, this is the inquisitive side over here.
Candice, I want to thank you for, this is like my 2nd or 3rd time hearing you speak, and every time I hear you talk about what you do and what you have done, I'd like to ask you, it's easy for people to see someone do what you've done and say, well, I can't do that. So what advice would you give to people who are like, well, I feel like I can do that, but I can't do that? What is that one thing that you would tell them to push them through as they're thinking, well, I don't have the resources, I don't have the connections? The one thing I wrote down was that you said you built that network, and that's been critical for me to find myself even here and everywhere that I have been, in rooms that I didn't think people were speaking of me. I remind myself every day, somebody's talking about you and you just don't know it yet. Aren't you excited about that? So what is some advice you would give to someone who wants to do that big thing that they think is too big for them, but they're like, well, I just don't have the resources that you may have?
I didn't have the resources. I just want to be very clear about this. This has been so hard to do. Please recognize, it's all hard work. And it's just, the people who are winning are the people who didn't give up. This is just the story of a girl who didn't give up. Like I said, housing projects, didn't give up. Subsidized housing, didn't give up. My grandmother worked for Lucas County Metropolitan Housing Authority as a plumber. I didn't give up. That didn't decide who I was, right? So before I started Hello Parent, and I did all that contract work from home, I was making $23,000 a year. I make a lot more than that now. But it didn't take that long. It just took a lot of hard work and determination. I started that, in 2014? That was less than 10 years ago. And so it was just not giving up. It was listening to a mentor or someone I met with and readjusting. And saying, okay, well, that didn't hit, I'm gonna fix it. That didn't hit, I'm gonna fix it. I wrote a pitch deck, slide 3 and 4, they weren't interested in, let's make an adjustment. I put in a grant application for $500,000, they didn't like it. This time, I'm gonna make certain that I make adjustments here because I always call because I wanna understand why you said no to me. When people say no, don't go, oh, forget them. Go, oh, tell me why. For me, that's what I've always done. No means why. Why not? Because I want to know. I hear no and then I also hear maybe. Maybe later. Right? Right? So when you see that person's face who told you no, you need to see opportunity. And that's all I've ever seen. And so it's just not giving up. Now, there is a consequence of, does the market actually want it? That thing that you're building? You also have to decide, who you're talking to. So for me, I've got funders and I've got founders. And there are some other stakeholders in between. And so if the founders still need it, I need to make certain I figure out how to tell the funders that. And does it align with their core mission? Am I going to the right people? Because yeah, sure, there is some of that, but this is all about finding out why to get to yes. But I started from scratch. Like Toledo, they say you're from the mud. I am mud made, right? And so, yeah, it's not giving up. And if I think about my org, Lightship Foundation, we are the only kind of privately held accelerator for women and minorities in the country. Beyond us, it's Techstars, Generator, Morgan Stanley, Comcast, and us, because I didn't give up. And the others that did exist, I bought. Yeah.
We have time for one last question, Sylvia.
Hi Candice, I'm Sylvia and I have a skincare business.
I have heard of you. How are you?
How are you?
Good.
I want to combine the skincare business and tech, and it seems like a lot of tech companies shy away from that, but I have an amazing app that I started about 5 years ago, but it's getting it to where it needs to be. So do you have any advice, or do you have a program that could help with that?
Absolutely. So we work with companies who are already in existence, right? And so if they are trying to do something new to add to that, we work with them through our boot camp. So we host a 3-day boot camp. On day 0, we sit down with founders and we get to know just who they are as a human being. And they're usually paired with another 9 folks. So it's 8 to 10 people in a boot camp. The first day, we talk about the technology that you're building, artificial intelligence, how you can use that in marketing. And you spend the majority of the day kind of working through your own business challenges, strategy style, with the entrepreneur residents that we have, as well as a few members of the team or people that come in as other EIRs. Day 2, we're focused on financial modeling, and we're bringing in other investors to kind of make changes to the company. We have a lot of resources around building. I'll give just a tiny example. We are working with a company right now out of Tulsa, Oklahoma called Silhouette. Silhouette is a high-end sneaker company. She has a brick and mortar store where she sells sneakers. What she realized is there is another market for sneakers. Everybody knows this. These sneaker prices go up and down. She's building what is almost a stock exchange for that. There is StockX that's a little different. The numbers and costs of sneakers go up and down throughout the day. So right now the sneaker might be worth $300, but at 4 p.m. because of scarcity, it's worth a different price. So she's building something new. So we're working alongside her because she is non-technical to help build that technology. And yes, so we do that every day. If you could just reach out, we would love to chat about that. Thanks.
One more round of applause for Candice Bracken.